Welcome to Trust to Traction. My guest today, Leslie Motta, brings that human perspective into conversation that too often begin and end with technology. Through her work with Unscripted Global, Leslie listens closely to the people and communities experiencing change in real time, especially where borders, media, financial access, and opportunities meet. I'm genuinely grateful to have you here with us. What motivated you to start Unscripted Global, and how did everything come to be?
Before Unscripted existed and before the Unscripted with Leslie Motta show came to fruition, one of the things that I kept seeing in the space, in X, we call them spaces, where you gather together with a bunch of people. We're in the crypto and the digital asset space. And it was all about meme coins, meme tokens, trading. And I remember there was always people that were saying, we keep getting rugged, we keep being exit liquidity, and there are people that are really not building, platforms building for the future of the blockchain. And I always remember saying in spaces, but there is going to conferences worldwide and getting to
Mm.
see firsthand what people were building. uh, I understood, that there was another side of X that we were really not part of, because it can kind of be like an echo chamber. So when I decided to go on my own and launch Unscripted with Leslie Motta, I decided to humanize the space, not just interview founders of what they're building, but really get to understand the person behind what they're building. A lot of the information in this space is very fragmented, very tech. And if we want to onboard the masses or people that are not in the blockchain industry yet, I one of the things that I saw is like, how can we make somebody relatable, tell their story, what they've been through, and then tap into what they're building. So this is how it came into fruition.
What did this stand out that led you to say, okay, we need more non-crypto natives into this movement as well?
Moving back home, I used to live in Texas. So a few years back, I ended
Oh,
up moving back home. So I am in a small town and they really aren't aware of crypto or blockchain or what it can do. And then there was this one time a project actually gifted us some burritos or money to buy burritos. And then we went out to donate to people that, were hungry,
that's
and to
wonderful.
homes that these services that would also feed the people in need. And that gave me an understanding that we needed more education. We needed to bring more visibility to the outside, because even though we think that there's already a lot of people in crypto, there's still a lot of people that don't understand it. And there was an interest that became of that. So I was like, you know what? Let me start telling the stories. And right now, the stories, I showcase it to like my Facebook audience, X, LinkedIn. And in Facebook, that's where I have the majority of the people and friends. And through that curiosity, they've asked more. And I do also think that, by creating this, is there wasn't space for a lot of honest conversations, that explained both the opportunities and the risks. So I wanted everyday people, especially newcomers, to feel like they belonged in the conversation. And what best way was to humanize the person before we talked about the product.
So how do you feel that whatever you're doing is actually working? Overall, do you have like a moment, or the awe moment that say, wow, my work is finally what would you define that moment?
I think that moment, I think I haven't had like that true aha moment. There have been a few. And anytime that I have an interview and they either love the intro, the questions, and afterwards, sometimes they do stay with me and talk to me behind the scenes backstage. And we have a conversation where they express, I haven't been made felt this way, and this is what we
Oh,
need
okay.
to continue doing. And you know, I've had a lot of beautiful interviews. I can't pick one because everything has, each one has
Mhm.
been different. But
Yeah,
I've interviewed like Gary Cardone, Unconfined, Nicholas Irving, which is the Reaper. And
yeah.
I remember Gary Cardone, after I did his intro, he even said, he's like, that's been one of the best intros that I've ever had. It's like, good thing I was behind the scenes. You almost made me cry. Like, who's that dude? And it's just
Wonderful.
those little moments that you capture that, you know what, I am on the right path. I am doing the right thing, and I need to continue to expand on it.
So that's the thing, and that's what makes it inviting, and I guess including everyone from crypto curious people and people like even like Grant Cardone that they're on another investor level, and I in a way it's kind of bringing everyone together under the same roof and. Getting a similar result, which is bringing everyone into the space, into the
Mhm.
Web3 space. So yeah, I like how this is going, and also why did you choose to be unscripted? Why not episodes like recorded like Netflix series or something like in that spectrum?
I, you know, working in media for a few years and working production and working, really trying to understand the story behind each guest that comes on, and, having questions for them, it can become very scripted and sometimes
Mhm.
exhausting. And even in spaces, right? Back in the day, we used to do like a lot of AMA spaces, and everything had to be very curated and you had to stay on
Yeah.
script. So when I started doing the show, I was like, I am still going to do my due diligence. I am still going to do my research. I am still going to curate questions, but I am going to allow for the conversation to go to a place that it needs to especially for the audience and for my guests. I want to make sure that my
Mhm.
guest feels as comfortable as possible. I also wanted it to feel that we're sitting on the couch and we're just having a conversation, getting to know the person behind what they're building. So I decided to go and name it unscripted. That way, if we went off script, we didn't have to like
Mhm.
really stick to it. So it's like at any point,
Yeah.
this conversation may be unscripted.
Did you ever have a moment where things went completely surprising you and the way things went on a live conversation that you
Oh,
got the
absolutely.
outcome completely unexpected? Yeah. Okay.
I think almost every single guest that I have, I'm prepared for the conversation to go one way based, on the questions that I put together. And then once, if I ask any of those probing questions that have them open up as a human, it completely will go a separate direction and we allow it to go, there. And I've had guests where they've gotten emotional.
Oh,
And I think those have been some of the best conversations. So, yes, I think almost every single one does go completely a different direction. And I love it.
yeah, yeah, I can see why, especially founders and people in the space in general, even marketers and Web3 and anybody that's building something. It does take a lot. So it's you after you investing so much in what you're building, then being able to kind of go out and tell the story freely. It's actually I think it's a unique thing of the show. Maybe something that you cannot actually do in other shows and podcasts.
Yeah.
So
You
that's
know,
something I appreciate. And
yeah.
yeah.
And I think the beautiful thing about it is that, and I say this over and over, we always see the finished product, right? Or we always see the shiny product. We always see when the person is already out there and, the platform or whatever they're building is established. And we never get to talk about what it cost them to get there. A lot of the founders and the builders that I've interviewed, they've left secure corporate jobs over six figures to build in something in an industry that sometimes we were unsure of, years ago. And I think that's the beauty of
Yeah.
telling their story, is that they left the security to build on uncertainty and what it cost them, the late nights, the times that they doubted themselves when they wanted to give up, the times where it's like, you go through these mental, I don't want to say mental issues, but you go through these mental and emotional places that you don't even know
Exactly.
if you're going to get out of it. It's like, you hit rock bottom, but at those moments you pick yourself up and you continue building and you don't give up and you don't quit, and now you have this beautiful finished product. And I think those are the stories that we really never hear.
Um, that's it's something that I think most of founders go through at a certain point in their journey, and that's a beautiful thing to kind of spotlight on your show. So, in from what I've seen nowadays, with we have the stablecoin market that's more mainstream. We have the RWAs, and even privacy coins are, I would say, they're more mainstream than what it used to be. What I would kind of what I'm wondering is what story that stuck with you from early builders, and what do you think changed, like from people that were building 10 years ago, maybe around the same time when you started and you started building, and what now, like I mentioned, many people coming from traditional finance, they find themselves in a new field. How would you find that change from someone that's starting back then and someone that's starting right now?
I think
Uh,
what has changed, it's technology. And I can't speak on every single person, but what I can speak is, on my experience and seeing going back 10 years to where we are now, is that technology has changed, AI has changed, and the more people get to see what you're able to build on blockchain and what you're able to do, you get more buy-ins. 10 years ago, it's like when, the internet first was developed, there was a lot of skepticism about it.
mhm.
And it took a while, for people to really mass adopt to it. And I think now, from where we were 10 years to where we are now, you're seeing how now the industry is rapidly growing and more people are buying into it, and more people feel like they have a lot more flexibility to build in this, ecosystem. And it's more appealing and appetizing now, where previously it wasn't.
Mhm. Would you say Web3 marketing is dead? Because now we have access to Google. It's something we didn't have at a couple of years ago. You cannot write Bitcoin on a Google ad or crypto or and for that there's this theory going on. Okay, I'm not sure if you agree or not that Web3 marketing is dead. How would you what would you tell someone that is that says that?
I think it's changed a lot from, even what, 3 years back, even what a 2026. Oh my God. I came into this space in 2021. So I'm trying to like reflect back to when I first entered. Oh,
Mhm.
I don't think it's dead. I just think that we have evolved and it's expanded to outside markets, and it's expanded to creators, to platforms that we didn't think, it would expand to. So
Yeah.
before the Web3 marketing, it was like boxed in, to this platform. It was
It
like in an
was,
echo
yeah.
chamber. Now it's not that. Now
Exactly.
it's like you have huge platforms, talking about it. You have celebrities, you have other content creators outside of the X echo chamber, which is, previously Twitter, that are now talking about it, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. So, I mean, we can probably say it's dead. I would probably say more like it's expanded outside of it. And
Yeah.
what even is Web3? The more that we talk about Web3, it's like
Yeah.
I mean, what really is it? And
It's just a name in the end. But at the same time, it's there's a lot of talk around AI as well. So especially in Web3 marketing and in general, you have a ton of AI slop nowadays. So what would you how would you say you stand out?
I think that I would say I stand out because I try to get to understand, what's happening. If I am going to be marketing and promoting a project or a platform, I really want to understand who they are, who's the leadership, what they're building, why it makes sense, do we need it? And if I do put it out there, I want to tell a story with every single piece of content or marketing that I do. And I think a lot of the times, what I see is marketing where somebody's just on camera talking about the product. But how are you making me feel about the product? So, say that I include you talking to somebody else and you relate to that person in the video, you're like, oh my goodness, it's like, I love that video. That's me in the video. I feel that way. For example, I did a marketing video for a product that came out that, analyzes a move on a chart, when it's possibly going to take off either up or
Yeah.
down. And I created a video where there's a lot of these PFPs from X, that we're like, okay,
Yeah.
we're not spotting the move before the move before it off, before it flies off.
Yeah.
And a lot of us would get frustrated because it's like we don't have early CAs, we're not in the trenches, etc. So when I put a lot of those people in and then I put some of them that already knew, everybody felt the emotion of that video. So I think that's kind of what sets me apart from some or the others, that I want to tell a story that you relate to as a consumer. Otherwise, how are you going to buy into what you're buying into?
So are you saying that would the same outcome be achieved with or without AI, or it just
With
really doesn't matter?
I use both. So, it's like if you can't beat them, join them, right? It's
Yeah,
like we always say that because come on, AI is AI. It's like it can take a human
absolutely.
to do and edit a video 24 hours, 48 hours, even a week sometimes to get good content out there. But now with AI, you can record a video, you can cut the video, you can add your edits, and it
Yeah.
generates it within a few hours. And
Saves time.
there's times where I don't have the time to actually sit and record a video and then edit and then put it out there, and I need to get it out. And my clients love what I do because I give them video, of me the human, and I also create little AI videos that people love, it's like out
Mhm.
there. So I do a
Yeah.
mixture of both. So that's how I'm competing with AI right now.
It's competing by using it. Yeah, yeah.
I'm competing by
That's a
using
good
it and
strategy.
giving a and doing what AI can't do, which AI still cannot take the human element, out of things. So I still create human videos as well as AI videos for marketing.
And I like that you mentioned that because your work is very community oriented and you engage so much with people. Like I see you in X spaces with like 4 people. Sometimes there's like thousands. Sometimes it's just 100. But I do see you have that community. Impulse and understanding, and community also gives back. I find like a lot of people are present there on the daily. So is that something you consider that AI can never take away, or do you think not yet, eventually is might
I
get
don't
there?
think you cannot take the human connection away. I don't think that AI can ever take that human connection away. And there have been AIs that, do come into the spaces with how technology is. There have been some profiles
Yeah.
that come in, talk to us, and then we're like, oh my God, that's AI. And we have a little bit of fun with them, right? I don't think that they can ever take that camaraderie of actually having a human conversation, just like you and I are having right now, or in spaces to really understand what they're going through. Or, some just want to go there to vent, some want to go in there, talk about what they're building, trading, blockchain, what's happening
Mm.
next. AI, can you program it to do that? Yeah, absolutely. But can you program it to have that human connection? No.
Yeah, even is that makes you think, is that the purpose of having advanced AI to begin with, to replace humans or to enhance people's lives and work in the end? Um, which part of building unscripted is still stubbornly manual or difficult to make repeatable? Because we did mention you're using AI, but what is that one thing that you still have to do?
Uh, I think there's still a lot of building unscripted. And I think right now I am a solo person and I just have a few interns working with me. So part
Okay.
of the manual process, I would say, would be still having to enter stuff, still having to manually assign tasks and things like that. And
Yeah, you still have to build the system, I guess, behind it, or
yep, still building the system behind it to for it to become operational and working on its own. So that's kind of what's a little bit time consuming. But I mean, as every day passes by and we continue to build, it becomes a little bit more sufficient and operational.
yeah, I guess that no matter how much automation we get, there will always be something that will have
Yeah.
to be done in person. It's especially
Yeah.
the optimizing part and maintenance
I
as
think
well.
yes. And one of the things that I think that will never ever become automated is researching and preparing, for the guest. Because if you always want, for me, if I always want my interviews to be thoughtful and to really humanize and for my guests to really connect with the viewer, I think that that's one thing that I'm always going to have to be hands on with unscripted. It's researching my guest, preparing for a thoughtful interview, preparing the questions. And I think that is something that I am going to intentionally protect because great conversations come from preparation and not automation. And, really, really getting to know the person behind what is
It,
being built.
it's something, yeah. On the as a side note, here's something I'm still like trying to learn on my.
It
Yeah.
does take time.
Mhm.
I think that you have to give yourself some time and grace. When I first started doing the interviews, even from the first one, I prepared and I was very nervous and I thought, I bombed it and I got great feedback. And the more that I do it, it's the more that you'll become comfortable, the more that you'll go back and watch some of your interviews and you will say, you know what, I could have done this better. I could have inserted this here, etc. And take notes and always go back to those notes. I still go back to those notes, even though I've done 60 episodes, sometimes I'm like, you know what, let me see where I was, where I am, because sometimes you will get comfortable and complacent.
Yeah.
And then when you get comfortable and complacent, then it starts kind of plateauing and you don't want to be there. And so you always want to go back and reflect, you know, where did I
Yeah.
start? Where was I? Where am I now? Compare your notes and sometimes you'll have, that's where you have some of those aha moments where you're like, oh my goodness, I was doing this and I stopped, let me go back and insert it again. So
Okay. So in another aspect was we're talking about that research and um preparation and wanted to bring more on the result part. How do you know when are you satisfied with the result? Let's say, which signal do you trust more? Are you happy with the views? Are you happy with the engagement? With guest feedback? What is that one signal that might actually tell you I'm doing the right thing?
I think there's many. I can't select just one. For
Okay.
me, is the feedback from the guest. When they tell me I've never had this type of interview, or this interview made me feel like X, Y, and Z, and you really made me feel like you understood my story. I think that is what keeps driving me. Even if I have one view, even if I have two views, is
Mhm.
like, was I able to really capture the person, the human behind what everybody sees? And if I am able to capture that based on the feedback, I know that that was a good show.
Was there to go a little bit more into the negative, was there ever an instance where you refused working with someone, like not naming or anything like that, but to say, was there any uh uh interviews that you refused? You found that it's not worth the cost?
So far, I haven't had any of those
Okay.
interviews yet, where I have declined an interview. Most of the interviews that I do reach out, and I've already done research on the guests. I've already, been around what they're building and understanding. There was a time
Mm,
where I did at the beginning put out a form for people to come on the show, and I did get a good handful of applications. And before I did send them an email confirming that they were going to be appearing on the show, I did research on the guest,
okay,
and I didn't have
fine.
to decline any of them.
Okay, so it's kind of the research includes spotting a little bit the red flags as well in what I'm understanding, because we've all seen that. I'm not saying there are bad projects and good projects, but let's say some founders and certain projects, maybe they're not ready to present yet, or it's something still in the making. Maybe they're over promising, and just to kind of lead to the red flags here. So that's for you, that's part of your main research as well. They don't
Yes.
pass that filter. It's
Well,
kind of
and a lot of the times too, I wouldn't even mind having a controversial guest. I wouldn't even
yeah.
mind having, a person that is not finished with the product, because those are stories that we don't even hear about either. And that, it's like we really don't tell, like, hey, I'm here, I'm still building. These are the areas of opportunities. These are the obstacles, and this is where I'm stuck. And what's holding the platform back, etc. I've had an interview once where it's like they had a product out there, but they were still building,
Mhm.
and now they've launched. Now they're on Apple, etc. So I'm going to bring them back.
Oh, that
So
yeah,
I
that's so
do
cool.
love to have those type of stories where it's like not completely finished. I do want to have stories. I haven't reached out to anybody yet, but there's a couple of people in mind where they're super controversial. It's like they might be called scammers, ruggers, but they
We
have
we
an
do
interesting
get
story.
the name calling a lot as well,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's maybe for good reason as well, because of the way that things started. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't be too harsh, but I do find maybe this the I don't want to influence your next answer, but would this be a behavior maybe that we should encourage in changing, for because as a media business and a person that you've been in the field for so long, we it's an impact that you can easily have on people, and that's adding to a behavior or changing certain patterns in people's behavior. So would this be the way some people perceive crypto and Web3 in general be something more companies should focus on?
I think some people's behaviors you just cannot change no matter what,
Yeah,
especially in the crypto space,
that's right.
especially because, there's people that make easy money. There's people that have huge following, and it's very easy for them to extract from communities. But at the
Mhm.
same token, it's like, when are we as consumers going to take accountability? Because if we keep partaking, because we also want to make a quick buck or quick dollar, then we're also feeding into that. And then if we get destroyed and if we're
Mhm.
exit liquidity, you turn around and you call this person a scammer. But we're like, at the same flip of the coin, we're
We
enabling this behavior.
it's a good point. This is the part of that behavior, and it's a two-edged sword in a way. But uh, more into I was thinking more into unscripted global. If you would have the chance to make an impact on your audience behavior, let's say this year, would there be something in particular that you would push for
I
more like
think
your own project and everything around the community,
I think it's
something
a
to strengthen.
I think when people unite, you can change things. So it's like, if you have a set of people that continuously you call scammers, it's like, okay, if they're scammers, where's the evidence? Provide the facts, etc. Why are we calling them scammers, etc.? How can we come together as a community and stop feeding into token launches, NFT launches, or things like that? Otherwise, it's just going to be a vicious cycle of nonstop. And I think for me, building on that is always making sure that what I promote, what I put out there for the community, and vice versa, who's the leaders behind it? It's how is
Mhm.
that going to impact, and how is that going to set us up, in a positive way for the future? Otherwise, is it really worth to invest into it or not? And a lot of the times, it's, to me, research, research, research. I really, really have to understand the what I'm getting into. It's like, I like to look at the leadership when I meet with a project or when I meet with someone. Transparency, community reputation, is there utility or not? And sometimes, just to be transparent, utility doesn't even
Mhm.
matter. And sometimes it does.
Yeah.
And whether claims can be verified. And I sometimes think that a lack of transparency is usually an immediate red flag. And I think that's kind of what I would want to do with Unscripted in my community, to bring more awareness to what's happening in the space.
So, after someone watches or joins a conversation in X spaces or in your community in general, what should they be able to decide or do differently for you to call they understand what your project is about and what your community is all about? In your viewers to say, oh, my viewers are now doing this before they didn't do that, or
I think it's
hmm,
kind of that's a difficult question, and the reason why it really
mhm.
depends. Um, because I am in a lot of X spaces,
You are,
and
yeah.
every single
Mhm.
one is different. So this is why I always tell my community, like, if you come in, not financial advice, do your research. Because sometimes I just go into certain spaces just to have a chit chat, to relax. It's not a working space, and certain spaces I am a little bit cautious, because when community members come in, or if they're following me because they follow my platform, I want them to come out with a little bit more nuggets of wisdom. If I'm in a trading space, is that trading space really providing, education? Are they really providing something that the community can benefit from. And most of them, yes, it's like they are very savvy in what the industry is doing, what the charts are doing, if we are going to have highs, lows, taking long, shorts positions. And I think that's what I want the community to leave with at the end of the space is like, you know what, I did learn something, even though it was a fun
Mhm.
space, even though they were just like, having a good time, I still ended up learning something.
Yeah, that's well, I guess because learning is it's something we all go through at a certain point, especially in the beginning, and as we go, it's a never-ending journey, especially in this field where technology keeps changing and
Oh yeah.
evolving as well. Um, it makes me go back to when we first met. Okay, so I think you started around 2021 or maybe before that even. At that time, I could say I only knew of maybe three or four women in the crypto space that I could I could say beside the certain innovators and other names that were already they're already visible, but in the builders and people that being active, like I could really say maybe three or four women in the space, and you were one of those three or four at that time. I'm just very curious, how did anything change? How do you find that after a few years later, it is anything changed? Do you find there's, well, obviously there's more women, but how do you find that this has shifted so far?
I think from when I first entered the space to where we are now, it's a complete 360. The shift is very visible, in my opinion. I think when
Okay,
I
that's
first came into the blockchain or the digital asset space, I came for crypto and I ended up in the NFT space. And I think there was a divide back then where NFT was considered like the Web3. And then there was an outside world where it was like crypto, you had your Bitcoiners and your Doge and that end
yeah.
of X. And then a few years later, after that, something happened where both worlds merged. And now, you had your own set of prominent people that were considered, crypto experts and that were able to promote certain things and that they would take off, and they would make a lot of money. And Web3 and NFT crew or crowd really didn't mix into that. Now there's a mixture of everyone and anything. It's like now it doesn't seem like it's so divided. It's a mixture of one. Now it's more of, like 500 men. It's the battlefield of who is going to be the next big thing to get marketing, to get paid, to be get the bigger KOL, to call something. So right now it's kind of a free for all.
It is. I think that maybe with you have the traditional finance, and you also have the DeFi in a way merging at this point, and a lot of newcomers in the space, but they're also fintech, leaning on fintech or fintech experience. Then you have the DeFi part of things. And what would you say to someone that is just coming from, either they don't have any crypto background, or maybe they're just coming from traditional finance, and they would like to start a career. They will be, let's say, at the very beginning of their career in this space. What would you advise them? And especially for a woman coming into this field right now, and in general
If
as well.
somebody sat me down and told me,
Mhm.
give me advice, I want to completely submerge myself in this space, I would absolutely tell them, okay, what do you really want to do? What are you looking to gain? And absolutely keep your day job until you are able to lock it in, and
Yeah.
really create revenue from this space because, you know, you do have a lot of people out there that are promoting and, have made a lot of money in this space. But that is not the journey for every single person. There are people that are
Yeah.
struggling in this space. And if you're first coming in, really, really understand, what you're looking at, understand how this platform works, how blockchain works, and what are you trying to gain out of it? And if you're just trying to become rich, I think at that point, coming in and not knowing anything, then you've already kind of set yourself mentally up to fail. Uh, and if you're just coming into trade meme coins and, trade crypto assets, create trade stables, then you know what? Go to spaces that are teaching that are
Mhm.
really talking about it and learn. But you really have to understand, what is your motive? What are you trying to gain from this space? And then take it from there. But if you're
In a
trying to
way,
come in
it's
and have a job here full time, keep your daytime job first for a while.
Web3 and the way things have moved so far. We've seen a lot of failures, a lot of success as well, right? Because people have success story, have failures. When someone is presenting their story in Web3 as a founder, or even in your case, what is something that you would never remove and say, no, I know this part of the story and it has to stay the same for maybe reality part or something that
Yeah.
motivates you? I'm not sure.
I
Yeah.
think that, don't ever edit out your trials and tribulations of what you had to go through and went through in order to get to where you are, because you never know how that story is going to be relatable to the next person that's probably in a similar situation as you trying to build. And a lot of the times, one of the things that we don't talk about and it is edited out, and I've seen it before, is there are people out there that, have built companies and
Mhm.
they flopped. And then they built another one and it flopped. And they built another one and that one took off and they're successful. And sometimes when you're having conversations or when you're hearing their story, you never hear those parts. You never know that they had other companies that failed or other situations, whatever it may be that they went through. And then when they share it, you're like, oh my gosh, I like you even more because you did go through obstacles, and you kept trying and you kept trying. And I think don't ever out, don't ever edit out your story, the truth, what you've had to overcome to get to where you are, because that's what makes you you. That's what makes you more relatable. And that's what draws in people
Mhm.
emotionally.
Yeah, it's another question I've been meaning to ask you, just kind of circling back to some of the things you achieved and did. I was gonna ask this one before we forget. I was very curious about your work at the UN, and do you mind telling me a bit of what it was the purpose and the speech about, just like a in a
The
resume
United
a bit?
Nations, that
Yeah,
was, I would want to say it was a few years ago.
it's a few years ago. Wow, that's
Yes.
kind of
So
stuck with me because it's something unique, and I'm probably you're the only person I know that actually did that. So it's very meaning to ask you about this. Yeah.
so it was, oh my goodness gracious, I'm trying to think. It was a few years ago.
Mhm.
So 2023 or 22, I want to say. And it was a group of us women that were building in this space. So it was the Science Summit, United Nations 78, and it was in September of 2023. And what
Okay,
it
that's been a
did,
while.
it's been a while. So it featured a lot of us women that were contributing to global conversations on innovation. And in the blockchain space, we were talking about digital opportunities that were happening here
at that time. Yeah.
and also reducing inequalities through these emerging technologies. And I think what became known at that time was that crypto has no borders, right? And
Exactly.
there's
Yes.
no barrier and no language with crypto. And we didn't have to speak the same language, but we somehow, some way understood it. So that's what we were talking about back then and introducing that.
Oh,
The
I love
lady
that.
that,
Yeah, that's wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they're still doing it. They're
Hmm.
still featuring every year different ladies that actually go and talk about it. And I'm not sure if they're talking about the same thing. When I went
Yeah,
to
yeah,
go
we have.
speak there at that point in time in 2003, this is where the world of Web3 and, NFTs were evolving rapidly. And I think one of the things that
Mhm.
was very important for us is to address, that there were at that time a lot of gender inequalities, and we wanted to ensure that we created more inclusivity and that there was more of a diverse environment that really enabled a lot of women to thrive in this digital landscape. Because at
Yeah,
that
but
point, I don't know if you remember, there wasn't that many women. Well, you even said it, there was a
I
few
remember.
women.
I remember. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was kind of strange at a time. I'm like, it even make you ask yourself like, what is this? Women hate this field or what? Why? But it's obvious. It's a deeper issues, more broad than this at that time.
yeah. And at
Yeah,
that
yeah. It was.
time, even though we didn't see a lot of, I think what happened back then is that we were not giving a lot of women a platform because there was a lot of women. We just didn't
Yeah.
know that there were a lot of women, especially like in the spaces. It was more prominent male men that were speaking in these spaces. And I think with going through and going to United Nations and featuring the ladies, we were able to meet a lot of female leaders in the space, a lot of creators, a lot of
Mhm.
developers, attorneys. And I think that was the beauty of it. And this is
It
where
is.
I started creating a show back then I called it Women Empowerment, and it was like the Leslie Motta show, Women Empowerment. And that's where I started showcasing a lot of women, what they're building. And then
Exactly,
after
because
that,
it's not like they weren't there. They were there.
they
Many
were,
were
yes,
already building. It's just they didn't get a voice,
yes,
and makes you wonder. Yeah.
exactly. And through that, I actually met the lady. Her name is Sandy, and I actually met her through creating the spaces. And then, like a year after that, Sandy's like, "Hey, I have this great opportunity. So, would you like to come and speak at United Nations?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely." So,
yeah.
that's how that came about. And, it's like, that's why you never know, when you're creating uh, shows and to showcase something, you
Hmm.
never know what's going to come out of it. And
Yeah.
through me creating that show, Women Empowerment, that's how I got this opportunity.
Yeah, it's a beautiful start, and also they got the right person at the right time as well. Yeah, yeah. But I'm happy that the space has changed so much, taking a turn for the best, and
Mhm.
even not just in, but even at founders level, I see more women founders than ever before, and not in just in one sector and that's it. Everybody's there. Yeah, so I think well, it's something that you clearly don't probably look back as much, but from my angle, I could see there was a movement, and you're probably part of that pioneering and paving the way for other women coming in the space, and it will be a different, completely different game from even from next year. I think a lot of things are still changing
Oh
from what
yeah.
I see. Yeah, yeah. And what have people asked you in real time that change your understanding of what they actually need from Web3? And going back to the Web3 marketing.
Yeah, I think it's not something that has stood out. I think it's the same. People and in spaces, one of the things that people consistently ask, they're practical questions. It's always about safety, wallets, taxes, how to get started.
Hmm.
So that kind of reinforces my focus on how can we educate more over speculation. And that goes hand in hand with the new people coming into space too. It's like, how do I get started? So I think that's
Yeah.
just question that is always coming up.
That's right. It's more how do people get started over and not scare them away at the same time, because it could
Yeah.
be overwhelming. I mean, we've all been there, right? So all these uh, uh, names and theories and yeah, that could be overwhelming for some newcomers. I find you
Mhm.
always adapt to your language to sometimes you can be very technical as well. Sometimes you're more beginner friendly. How do you stay beginner friendly when you have like so much knowledge? And is that a easy thing to switch like your brain to beginner or advanced?
Not to me, and one of the things that I learned early on, I used to facilitate classes in the corporate world, and not everybody learns the same. And sometimes, when you're facilitating a class, you're going to have people that ask a lot of questions. So therefore, you're going to have to find ways to explain what you know for somebody to understand. And I'm the same way. So I've been in spaces where some people are very smart, very technical. And I'm like, okay, I don't understand that. So can you explain it to me? Like I'm a sixth grader. And a lot of
Okay,
people, they don't know how to do that. And that's one of the things that I had to teach
it's a
myself because
skill.
I was in that same boat. Yes, where it's like I was
Mhm.
explaining something and I was like, okay, how can I explain this to somebody that's in elementary? And it's not to make the other person seem dumb or anything. It's just for me to really understand it so I can explain it in a way that somebody else can understand it. So I always thought of that. Okay, if I'm saying something and somebody doesn't understand it, in my head is like, how would this be explained to me? Like if I was in an elementary, how can I get somebody from elementary to understand it? And once I understand that in my head, then I'm able to explain it in a way where it seems like the information is more digestible.
Yeah, it's a skill, and I find it's a thin line as well from my experiences, because there's always that risk you make things oversimplified, and
Hmm.
sometimes you might still kind of tend to add a few terms here and there, like so. But I like your technique on this on this approach. Another thing I was wanting to also wanted to get into here, it's more industry related. For example, Banco de Mexico reports that 99.1% of Mexico's 2025 remittance income arrived electronically. I mean, well, it's already not a secret in Latin America. Crypto is something for certain regions that's kind of part of everyday life, but yet there's 49.6% of those electronic remittances were still collected only in cash. So my question to you is, what is missing between money arriving digitally and the person choosing to keep using it digitally?
I think that trust and
Mm.
everyday usability are missing. So people need simple experiences, merchant acceptance, education, and confidence before they change long-term habits. And I think that's what a lot of people don't have is how can my experience be simple? You know, being down here at the border, I see it. People are busy all day long, and it's
Yeah.
easy just to tap and go, tap and go. And if we're not making the user experience easy and feasible for them, then, you know, how can we get them to adapt? But I think that's what's missing. It's trust and everyday usability.
So do you, if I understand well, do you think this trust layer is more on the merchant side, or is it banking, or is it something?
Oh,
Is it? Yeah.
absolutely. You know, I think a lot of people don't trust their
Hmm.
banks. You know, it's like, and it,
And for good reasons, yes. At
yeah.
times, yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, and a part of that too is it's the experiences. People just need simple experiences. If we don't have that, it's
Yeah, yeah, it's the that first transaction, I guess, in using this technology, then getting used to it. When you have that final screen after a transaction happen, right? Like in a wallet or platform or whatever, like you mostly see the address from this user to from this wallet address to that address. You see the time, and what else do you find is anything else that should be included there to in order to build more trust towards the user?
one of the ones that we always, it's the funds, which, okay, time to funds available. So how long does it take from initiating the transaction to until the user can actually use the money?
Yeah.
I think this is one of the most meaningful outcomes, because if we do want to onboard people, if we want to get more uh people to utilize, you know, crypto,
Hmm.
can the
Yeah.
transaction be faster than a bank? And that has been my experience lately. So, you know, I have been getting a lot of gigs in crypto, and I get paid a lot in crypto. So now I transfer it into a platform. And in that platform, I was able to use a Visa card, or depending on which one your what platform you use, they now
Yeah.
provide either a Visa or a Mastercard. So guess what?
That's
I don't
right.
even
Yeah.
have to transfer it to my bank anymore. Previously, you didn't have that option, so I had to transfer it to my bank, and then I had to wait. You know, sometimes it was fast depending on how the amount that you transferred.
Mhm.
You had to wait a few hours, 24 hours. Now
Wow,
it's like
that's
if I
long.
get paid in crypto, I transfer it to this platform right away. And then I'm ready to swipe my card and use the crypto. I don't even
So
have to use my
the
bank
wow,
anymore. So
that's
I think,
beautiful.
yeah, so I think to me, it would be the experience of time to funds available. You know, it's like how long does it take from initiation to transaction until I'm able to use the funds? And what is the successful settlement rate? You know, what is the percentage of transaction that settle
Yeah.
successfully without intervention?
And that's amazing that you actually mentioned this part of the process, because I didn't expect to actually mention this part exactly, but
It had to take me a little
uh
bit to think about it.
yeah, yeah, but it's kind of opening for me as well, because we tend to talk more about the onboarding.
Hmm.
But guess what? The offboarding is maybe as important, and we did have the onboarding for so many years in crypto, but nobody really spoke about the offboarding. And okay, your transfer was instant, but can you use the money instantly? So now it's kind of you bringing up. This is amazing progress in my opinion.
Yes.
It's yeah, yeah.
And see, and this is what a lot of platforms are building, you know, that end-to-end user experience. A lot of platforms now, you don't even have to offboard your crypto.
Yeah.
They are, you're able to use, you know, rings, a card, visas, and all your crypto is there. And that's how you're able to buy your products. And, you know, there are some states here in the United States of America that have already
Mhm.
allowed that and adapted. Unfortunately, for me here in Arizona, I still have to transfer to a platform and I still have to sell it or convert it, but they
Yeah.
still have a card that I can use. But there are other platforms where you don't even have to convert it. You don't even have to do anything. You use their card and voila, it's they're making even that much easier. So it's
Yeah.
like you either stay in a state where you're able to do it or you still have to do one more leg work. But I mean, I'm still in a better position than having to transfer everything to the bank, wait for that, and then use my funds. And then if sometimes, if you're in a pickle or whatnot, depending
Oh,
on
that's
how you're
kind of makes a
living, it's like
huge difference.
sometimes you
Yeah.
need it right away. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's in everyday life. It's something else that we didn't have as much. And I think we're still lacking at this. Maybe you might agree in certain areas, but retailers allowing people to spend their crypto in real time as well. I find there are some that are crypto friendly, but also is not yet a mainstream adoption. Maybe we're heading there because with upcoming regulations and everything around it. But for the moment, I see that many people would love to spend some crypto, like whatever they're in vacation, or they're taking a cab or anything, but they cannot. That's do you think this is still a ongoing problem, or it's about to kind of get resolved in a way?
I think
It's
that
a,
it's still growing.
mm,
I do think that you are starting to see big companies, big industries, big corporations start adapting and utilizing it. And the more some do it, you are going to start seeing that's going to be, it's going to roll down to the masses. It always takes that one. It's like we've seen some food chains too already allowing Bitcoin to be used at some of their locations. And, that's going to
that's
be,
wonderful.
what's it called? That snowball effect eventually.
It should be that maybe in a few years from now we'll be just see that as normal. It's like, hey, do you remember those times we cannot pay with stable coins or anything? We'll look back and laugh about it, hopefully. But yeah, just to get, since we're still a little bit on the technical things, I wanted to ask you, because some of your work includes layer one and DEX infrastructure, as well as you were at the Litecoin Summit discussion on the future of swaps and decentralized exchanges at a certain point. I remember there's something mentioned. If you were reviewing a swap, if you were reviewing a swap experience for mainstream users, what complexity should feel invisible and what risk must remain explicit, in your opinion?
Oh my gosh, everything, it's like,
Yeah, redesign it. It's true. Yeah, yeah, that's
have you
something.
ever gone to some of these websites and you're trying to swap and then you're trying to find, it's like I haven't done a swap in a while on platforms because one of the things that I've loved about wallets lately is that they've actually integrated the swaps right there. And oh my gosh, that has made it that much easier. But back in the day, I remember when you would have
Yeah,
to go to other platforms and swap, right? If you wanted to swap from
yeah, no,
Ethereum to Bitcoin, Ethereum to Solana, or vice versa.
yeah,
Sometimes the button would
bridges.
be way up here and then the swap down here. And then okay, you're like, okay, what's the swap? And then what's the fees? What am I trying to do next? Or sometimes the fees wouldn't come up until later. Or sometimes it would be like, you need to transfer your money first. And then we'll tell you, what the fee is. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. But now that a lot of these wallets have integrated that technology, I'm like, I don't even think that we have to go outside any to any other platform. It's just for if the
Yeah,
wallet still
that's
hasn't
beautiful.
integrated that chain.
It's definitely something that improves the experience for whoever thought about
Hmm.
making this a lot simpler. Yeah, I've seen that also in a few wallets that have adopted that. And well, we still have to consider the fees and everything else, but it's all on one screen now. It's not like you have to calculate on paper at the end of the transaction, hoping you
I
didn't
think
miss anything.
sometimes as humans, especially when you're really busy, you don't even mind paying a little bit of a higher fee as long as you don't have to transfer your crypto funds to another platform because they have a lower fee, swap it, and then send it. I think sometimes, time is money as well. So if you're able to do it right there, right away, then you can move on to work on the next thing. So the ease of use, I think sometimes you will spend a little bit more for that ease of use.
Yeah, yeah. In the end, it's efficiency is what stands out the most. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And on the same context, because I mentioned layer ones earlier. Um, what would you think that is this even a debate? Some people they debate that they're more layer one, others are more layer two. Um, and in what would bring most projects and most liquidity in the long term in your opinion? Is it the layer ones or is it the layer twos or it doesn't matter?
I don't even know. Honestly, that question, it's like, I think eventually it would come down to why are we using your product the most? It's like, and the trust and the build. And if people are using that platform a lot more than another one, doesn't matter if it's layer one, layer two, it really depends on the product that you've built.
I just because I don't want to miss the chance and talk about meme coins, and then I have a last question. Um, your site also gives meme coin communities their own lane, where culture can teach participation faster than formal education. What do these communities understand about belonging and participation that more serious Web3 projects often miss?
A lot of the times, belonging comes before the technology. People join communities because they feel welcome, they feel seen, not because they understand the protocol. And liking posts, creating memes, joining spaces, it does help a lot of the newcomers all to contribute to something meaningful. And it's not just technical and it's not just them writing a code. I think too, culture matters more than features. And if you
Yeah,
see a lot of these meme communities, that are launching a lot of these tokens, a lot of those buy in because they see an image and they're like, oh my gosh, I relate to that. That reminds me of my childhood. That reminds me of something in my past. And they're able to share, whether it's inside jokes, a shared language, that sometimes doesn't have to be spoken. With some of them, they share traditions and
true.
there's that emotional attachment, that you
Mm,
really can't document, right? It's like you
can I
just see it, it's like boom, you connect with it. And then of
exactly.
course, it's like the recognition a lot of the time beats rewards. It's like, hey, let me send you something to your wallet. Why? Because they want, that shout out. They want that public recognition, that recognition. A lot of them participate because of community roles, and they people like being known by name, and it
That's
often
right. Yeah.
motivates people more than a token incentive alone. A lot of people, we want purpose, whether we say we don't or not. It's like we do want purpose, and communities thrive when members
Hmm.
feel they're building something together instead of simply speculating on price. And a lot of these communities, the leaders are accessible, founders who show up consistently, they listen, they engage. uh as humans, you begin to build trust with the community, you begin to build trust with the people, and a lot of the times, even if you have a roadmap can't replace that. And when you're creating a story with your community, that also builds loyalty. When you have a compelling narrative, it gives your members something to believe in beyond the charts and market cycles, and they'll begin, to work that community or that meme, whatever they are. That, a lot of very serious Web3 projects, they focus heavily on the product roadmaps,
Yeah.
tokenomics, the
Mhm.
technical milestones. And I think that is important. It is very important, but they often overlook the human side of it.
Yeah, because what really projecting on what my understanding from what you said right now, it's I can see that certain meme coin projects, they might have a price, but in fact maybe they're priceless for the community and the people that are involved in it. So even having a price is maybe just part of the meme as well. So that's it's something that we don't really see and we don't think as much when
Yeah.
comparing utility coins or meme coins. So I really appreciate your view on this. And this kind of takes me to the last question. And thank you for staying with me so far. I want to close on the outcome and not the size of the platform. So if I mean it's not a if I having high hopes, and I kind of know that Unscripted Global will keep winning over the next 5 years. And my question is, what will your audience be able to do confidently that they cannot do today?
If, well, not if, in 5 years,
Yeah.
I hope that our audience, with confidence,
Mhm.
are able to research opportunities, protect themselves from scams, ask better questions, make smarter financial decisions, because we lack that in this space. And if
Yeah.
someone tells me Unscripted helped change how they build wealth and evaluate opportunities, that's the impact, that I'm working for. I want our audience to also leave conversations more informed. I want them to leave with confidence, and I want them to be able to think critically, be able to ask better questions when they're on stages, and really make informed decisions, instead of just following the loudest voices in the room, because we see that time and time again. And so whether the topic is about trading, meme coins, technology, AI, they'll know how to separate facts from hype and understand that people behind the headlines. And that's one of the things that we need more in this space, is that we have a lot of followers, we don't have a lot of leaders, and we have a lot of people that just take everything that certain people say for face value and don't do their own research, and don't, are not wise enough to be like, okay, if you're saying X, Y, and Z, where are the facts? Where can you point me? Doesn't mean that you have to do the research for me, but if you're saying X, Y, and Z, give me this so I can do the research. And if they're not able to provide you with that information, it's at accuracy. So, in my opinion, that's the legacy I hope, Unscripted leaves, not just a media platform, but a trusted place where people learn, connect, and realize that behind every innovation is a human story worth understanding.
Exactly. It's something that I think that it's something that gives true value as well to a community where people can thrive and make better economic choices rather than just sound cool and improve their vocabulary and be all about hype. As we've seen in the past, we've seen that less and less,
Yeah.
and that's I find that's also thanks to people like you, Leslie, in the space that have kept building, that kept it real, and also stayed connected to the community and people around you. Oh, just to mention that again because it's something I really appreciate. And it's been an honor having you here. Thank you for joining me on Trust to Traction.
Thank you for having me, Stefan.